One, two, one, two, three.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Performance Anxiety Podcast on the Pantheon Podcast Network. I am your host, Mark, and we are joined by the multi-talented David Heatley from the comfort of his car. He was kind enough to chat with me about his incredibly varied career. Music was very important to him early on. He started a few bands like Velvet Cactus Society and the Bischoffs. Both bands were fun, junkyard-y kind of bands, but when David kind of took creative control, he figured his next project should probably just be a solo project. But in addition to his music, David has also been a very successful illustrator. His creativity tends to cycle between being introverted and creating his art until he starts feeling the need to be extroverted and to perform. And it served him really well. He also tells us how he would reach out to artists he admired and send them his work. It's worked to his benefit on many occasions, the latest being his new album, Life Our Own Way. He wrote to legendary producer Mark Bingham. That led to some conversations. That led to demos, which led to studio sessions, which led to the new album. David's new album has just come out, and he's already working on the next one. And just in case he wasn't busy enough, he's working on TV shows, including one based on his addiction to 12-step programs. So give him a follow at David Heatley. Buy the new album, Life Our Own Way. Follow us at Performance ANX on the socials. Check us out and all the other great podcasts on the Pantheon Podcast Network. Rate and review us all. You can help support the show through ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety or performanceanx.threadless.com. And I hope you enjoy David Heatley on Performance Anxiety, part of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Performance Anxiety Podcast. My name's David Heatley. I have this new record out called Life Our Own Way, and I'm psyched to talk to Mark about it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. This is cool. I started looking up some of the stuff you've done, and man, you're quite the creative guy.
Why, thank you. I appreciate that. So where are you based out of?
I'm out of Winchester, Virginia.
Oh, cool.
So nice. I'm about 75 miles due west of D.C.
Right on. So
I know you're in Louisiana right now, right?
I am, yeah. Excuse the dark car. I'm halfway on the way to New Orleans, and I was like, not going to make it to the city in time. So I was like, I'll just do it from in this parking lot here.
Oh, cool. All right. So where are you from originally?
I live in Queens, New York, and I'm from New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh, whereabouts in Jersey?
Teaneck. Do you know Teaneck?
Yeah. I used to live in Branchburg, so I was like right in the central Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on like Somerset, Hunterdon County border.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, Jersey roots.
So, like I said, I was checking your creative history out a bit, and I mean, you're a cartoonist, an animation director, musician. Was that something that I mean, was your family full of creative people? Were there a lot of artists in the family, or are you kind of like the black sheep who is a little bit different from everybody?
Well, I have two brothers, and we're all creative people. My mom studied theater in college, so she's got a creative streak. My dad sang show tunes around the house and wrote, I think, sonnets when he was in college. So yeah, there's definitely some creativity. They both wound up in kind of jobs that they didn't necessarily feel connected to with their souls. So unfortunately so that wasn't modeled for me how to actually, keep doing art throughout your life and keeping it fresh for yourself. But yeah, I would say, I think honestly, just my town growing up, Teaneck in the 90s, for whatever reason, was just like an explosively creative place to be. So many of my friends were artists and theater people and musicians, and it was just like an amazing melting pot. So I think that's probably a lot of my roots of my creativity are really there, like learning to make songs and paintings and comics with my friends in high school,
Okay.
Yeah.
Was art something that you studied, or was it something that just kind of came naturally to you? When did you really decide that you really enjoyed art?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's funny. I kind of tease my parents, because I feel like in some ways they didn't quite pick up on the signals well enough, but it's like if you go back to me being like a toddler, practically, I'm drawing my own little picture books, like sitting under the table making my own kids' books. I have a tennis racket. I'm pretending to play the guitar. Like I was telegraphing at a very early age what I was interested in, you know. So yeah, that goes back to as early as I can remember drawing little cartoons and books and my own stories, and just like really loving the worlds of picture books, like, you know, Dr. Seuss or Richard Scarry or you know, any of these like children's books at first, and then comics later, newspaper strips, and also comic books. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't until high school that I really felt like, I guess a little bit middle school, but high school I really felt like, wow, I actually can draw. I'm pretty decent at this, and I just enjoyed it, and I liked doing these little cartoon. When I had a band, I would like draw the flyers for the band, and you know,
nice.
So yeah, I was sort of always doing both, really.
Were you musical at an early age too, or was that something you picked up later?
Yeah, I mean, I was always in school bands and stuff, and I was always very, like, music was essential to my life. I actually do kind of feel like, you know, discovering like the Talking Heads in middle school like saved my life, because I could just go into my headphones and, you know, ignore all the idiots around me and just feel like someone out there in the world understood me, you know.
Yeah.
And They Might Be Giants was another big band. They Might Be Giants, like those two kind of saved me through middle school. I felt so out of step with everyone, but yeah, it wasn't until high school that I was like, I actually discovered this band, King Missile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of the members of that, this guy named Dog Bowl, he had a solo career too. And they were like my idols, because it didn't sound like that far off from what I could actually do. It was like a little junky guitar sounding, and the song lyrics sounded very kind of like rushed sometimes. And it just gave me permission to just try and do it myself in high school, you know?
That's awesome. That's the first King Missile reference I've had in almost 250 episodes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They were seminal for me. And I'm just talking specifically about the earliest incarnation of King Missile, just to be clear. It was King Missile, parentheses, Dogfly Religion. That was the name of the original band. I mean, the other stuff's great too, but this was like the weirdo stuff that I loved, you know?
When did you start playing with other people and playing out?
Yeah, that would be high school. So I had a friend named Kyle, and we just decided to form a 2-person band. We were called Velvet Cactus Society.
I've heard that.
Yeah, we kind of modeled ourselves like on Ween, or They Might Be Giants. Early They Might Be Giants was like a 2-person band, and so yeah, it was just about like, it was kind of like really bad stoner spoken word poetry with like quirky ass music behind it. But
there's definitely some interesting stuff in there.
we played like some open mics in the East Village, and you know, had a couple gigs. We played our high school, you know, homeless benefit show. That was maybe the biggest audience I've still yet ever had to date. Like, you know, hundreds of people in this high school auditorium listening to me and my little dinky song. So that was kind of cool.
Well, I checked out the 8-song album that's like 26 songs, which I thought was awesome. I love that. I love that. It's called 8 songs, and there's 26 of them on there.
Yeah.
And it started off, When I Sleep Naked, just killed me.
I'm awake. I vaguely remember the course of the evening last night. A lot happened. I was reading a book about a man who falls in love with a fish. It is his truly beloved fish, and I think of you, and I try to draw parallels between you and the fish, as though somehow we would back up whether or not you love me by how much you look like a fish. The room was bleeding last night, and I found myself in knight's armor, with long braided hair, screaming in German as you lay dead by my feet. Something about evil or something. And I drink the blood and scream, and my teeth grow long, and now I'm sucking.
Every song on that I had a chance to listen to is just, I mean, I can definitely feel the Ween type of influence, and it's just awesome. The songs are short, they're funny, they're catchy, it's hilarious.
Thanks. Yeah, I cringe very hard thinking about some of those songs, but I appreciate you taking the time and digging it up.
That's what I love doing with this podcast, digging deep, finding all the skeletons. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work, not dealing well with the stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Try doing that in person. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And a special offer to Performance Anxiety listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/performanceanxiety. That's betterhelp.com/performanceanxiety. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
The deep cuts.
Yeah. What came first? Or was there a point where you decided you were going to pursue art over music as a career, or did you want music over art and you just kind of fell into it? How did that happen?
So I went off to college. First I went to Oberlin College and I studied, painting there and psychology and some other subjects. And I did keep playing in bands there at the time. And actually, when I dropped out of Oberlin, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to just make this my thing. Okay. And I just kind of somehow once I got there, I just sort of lost the will and really fell in love with comics and just kind of got super introverted. Oh. I seem to cycle between this introverted stages and then being a little more extroverted and wanting to get out there and perform. So this was kind of a long stretch of I actually really like being in my room and just drawing these comics and not having to interact with people. I'm going to do this for a while. And then it seems like once I get through that cycle, then it's the music comes roaring back out of me. It's no, this is important too. And so I think, honestly, for the last 20 years, it's sort of cycled between those two. I get super intense with one or the other and not often at the same time. Sometimes at the same time, not often though.
So you're not writing throughout this whole time. It's kind of like a creative bursts.
Sort of. I mean, I might be getting song ideas I have 2 published graphic memoirs and while working on them, I would be getting song ideas, but it was almost like a kid nagging at you, no, I'll deal with you later. You're just I don't have time for you right now. You sort of record the idea of it, but I can't sit down and actually write the thing. So it's, I have to put it off a bit sometimes.
Okay. So that makes a little more sense because I did see that, you're the one book that you put out, My Brain is Hanging Upside Down. You have a soundtrack for that.
As I watched it on TV, somehow it really bothered me. You're dragging all the bars in town for an extended foreign policy. Pick up the pieces. My brain is hanging upside down. And I need something to slow me down.
You did your homework. Okay.
Yes. That's what I do instead of my job. I go to work and I do research for my podcast instead of my actual job.
Excellent. I support that wholeheartedly.
So, all right. So you are it does kind of overlap at times then.
Yeah, that's true. But the funny thing is so that I handed in the book and, in the publishing world, you hand in a book and then a year later it comes out or something. So I finished it, handed it in. And then in my case, it was maybe only 5-6 months later. But in that 6 months, I suddenly was now I want to do music. And so then I got this idea, I'll write songs kind of related to the book and we'll try and put it out at the same time. And, it was that sort of thing. So in some ways it was after the book was done that the music really came to the forefront.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you've done a couple of other things. So you're also in the Bischoffs and you've done Angel's Number Band and you've had a lot of your artwork published all over the place. I'm looking up, trying to find out. My notes are all over the place today. So I don't know. My whole day has been like this whole mishmash of insanity. So, all right. So you've had,
no worries at all, man.
You've had comics and drawings, and they've been in New Yorker, every section of the New York Times. You've appeared in Granta, McSweeney's, Best American Comics, Nickelodeon Magazine, Time Out, and let's see. Okay, so you illustrated Otis Duda's children's book.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also music for that.
There's music for that too.
He's just a skinny kid, but he's got help. His friends are Kat and Perry and Boris, he's got his mom and dad at least, and his brother Gunther, and Smoochie the rat. He moved from Hogshead to NYC. Now there's a kid in a potted plant living in his lobby. Please don't put a curse on me. I'll give you all the candy you want, I swear.
Yeah, no, I definitely have had like quite a run of it as like an illustrator and a cartoonist. That was I've had a fair amount of success, or I'd say visibility. It's not like my books weren't like bestsellers or anything, but enough to like get my name out there. But yeah, I guess, well, in the case of the Otis Duda book, like that was a publisher came to me and said, would you like to illustrate this book by this author? And I loved it so much. I was like, became friends with her. And I was like, I'm starting to hear these like songs related to your characters. Is it okay if I like make some songs about it? And she loved the idea. So I would just send her these demos when I finished them, and she's like, oh my God, I love it, keep going. And so before I knew it, I just had an album of these like kid songs. And it was around the same time my kids were that age of that reading series, so it was sort of perfect. I could kind of share the songs with them and share the drawings with them, and we could bond over the Otis Duda series. That was pretty fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I went back and listened to some of that, like Potted Plant Guy and Subway Zombies. I mean, they're really cool. I like that. It's really interesting stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was one of those projects that just kind of like, came out of me like a torrent too. I just would stay at my art studio till 2 a.m. and record like 3 of them or something. And, I don't know. They wrote themselves really quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit, what was the first thing that you had published? How did that whole career start for you?
So I've always been a believer in kind of like self-publishing and then just sending your stuff to the artists you really admire the most. And that's what I've always done. Like I kind of would make my little comics and Xerox them or whatever. And then I'd get like, Daniel Klaus's address or Chris Ware and like mail it to them. And I would sometimes get a response and then, keep sending them stuff as I got better. And yeah, when I was living in Chicago, I actually was sending my stuff to Chris Ware, and he was like incredibly responsive and generous. And we wound up like kind of becoming friends, and he opened some doors for me with like a free weekly in Chicago. I did some work for them, and then he invited me to be in McSweeney's when he's editing it. And so I don't know, you sort of build on these, and it was never, for me, it wasn't like networking to kind of try and get somewhere in my career. It was like I just had a genuine connection and interest with this guy's work. I wanted him to see my work, but that often is how these things happen for people, is like you just extend yourself to the people whose work you love the most, and most likely they'll feel some affinity for what you're doing because you're so deeply, in tune with their work. So yeah, that's how it's sort of always happened for me. Just like focusing, and the New Yorker was the same thing. I was like sending my stuff to Françoise Mouly, who chooses the covers, for years, like a years long courtship of just sending her things. And then finally, if she likes you enough, she then puts you on the list of people she'll deign to accept a sketch from, and then once you get past that stage, she might like one of your sketches. So it was that kind of courtship,
Oh, that's really wild. So it sounds to me like, you weren't using connections and the people to further your career. Like you said, you actually had a genuine interest in what they were doing, and you just kind of wanted to share what you were doing. And that when that happens, when you do that, the sincerity is apparent, and they take you a lot more seriously.
That's exactly it. Like I've never written some kind of like letter or email or something, just trying to ingratiate myself. I only ever write from the heart. Like this, look, your work means the world to me, and here's why. And then like, if you happen to like my stuff, here it is too. And then, yeah, you'll see what happens. That's always kind of what I tell people is, just extend yourself, because you'd be surprised at how few people actually do write and try and get in touch with people. I mean, it's kind of rare. So it does cut through, you know?
Yeah. So when did you start working with, or playing with the Bischoffs? Is that something that you formed, or is that something you joined?
Yeah, that was definitely my band. It was like 3 of my close high school friends, honestly, when we were like way out of high school, though. We were like 30 or something. So it was like a high school band, like, you know, after the fact. And I'm not sure. I think it sort of naturally started. One of my friends was like, hey, we should just get together and play some of your songs. And then it was like, this other friend was like, why don't I join? And then the 4th friend. And before we knew it, like we had this kind of cool format, which is that I played an acoustic guitar. My other friend played like an acoustic guitar with a pickup so he could make it electric. The drummer played a school desk. He just like would bang on a school desk and we would mic that. And then the other guy played like a tambourine and sang with us. So it was just this kind of 4-part harmony, acoustic junky mess, which was great. It really it worked out pretty well.
That's hilarious. What do you play? The electric desk.
Exactly.
I got to hear that. But the music is fun.
You're such a brilliant little mastermind creator. Cartwheels and drawings and stories and strange theater. How can you never pause until you're...
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys had a blast doing it.
We really did. I mean, I think our friendship does come through on that record. There's a lot of love between the 4 of us.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. So the album that you're releasing now is a solo album. It's not a Bischoffs album. What was the impetus to make an album on your own?
Yeah, so I did do. So one thing that happened with the Bischoffs is like we had a really great, like I said, kind of junkyard-y live sound that once we got into the studio, I was realizing it was just not translating over. And the record that we made kind of became almost like a collaborator between me and the producer named Jeff Lipstein. And so to the point where the band almost didn't recognize it as like our band. They were kind of like, this is just you. Like, this is you doing your thing. And it wasn't like super contentious, but they were not, like I was happier with the record than they were. And so I think that was the start of feeling like, you know what? I mean, maybe I just need to have my own, just call it my name if I'm gonna be making all these creative decisions. And you know, so I think that was the start of the idea that I would have more solo projects going forward. And then before this current record, I did do these series of 3 EPs under that Angel Numbers moniker, and that
Sexified. This puts the nail in the coffin of me ever being sexified. Strolling through the mall in California with some fashion model European by my side.
That could have been a full-length album, I guess, but this is really my proper like debut, like collection of songs as an album, as a statement, and those were sort of EPs, like, you know, getting me here on the way here, basically.
Okay, I do like Dream Puppy and Davy Curly Jets. I love that song. That's a great song.
Such a dynamo fighter. See him coming and they turn a shade whiter. Every night of the week he ups the ante when he's out on the streets or with the other vigilantes. Please, can you hear me, Davy Curly Jets? Curly Jets meets.
Oh, cool, man. Thank you.
You got in touch with former podcast guest Mark Bingham.
Yes.
How did that happen? How did you get, because that dude's like a legend. How did you get in touch with him and start working with him?
I know. I'm sort of pinching myself, to be honest. I guess it's what I just described to you, which is that, so Peter Stampfell's record came out, and I had already been a fan of the work he's done with Mark going back years. I just love Mark's production on Peter's records. And so when this new, 20th century album came out with 100 songs, I was like gobsmacked. And to me, I mean, Peter's wonderful. Like, to me, the production of those albums are what make them like just absolutely stellar. And so I essentially just wrote Mark a fan email and just literally gushed. I probably off the top of my head could, pick out 20 different songs, and here's what I loved about this one and that one, and your choices here and there. And he's incredibly humble, obviously. So but he did respond, and he was like, all he did was kind of like credit the musicians who did those things that I liked. And I'm like, no, but I like that you thought of it and you got the guys. Like, I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
He's funny that way. He just deflects. But anyway, we did strike up a little bit of a correspondence. And I said, hey, I've been writing songs for a long time, and I have this new batch of songs I wrote during quarantine, and like I've just been demoing, here if you want to, dream of mine to work with you someday, if you want to just like listen to some of these. And to my surprise, he did. And then to my further surprise, he was like, these are great. Why don't we do a few of these? If you could come down here, we could do like 4 of them as a test and just see. Wow. So that was what happened last summer,
That's incredible.
Incredible. Yeah.
Jeez. So you didn't have a band ready to go. You had to put one together.
He formed like this freaking solid, New Orleans glitterati, incredible band for me. I mean, that's part of this process that's just blown my mind. It's like, wow, I just have never heard my songs like in such lush, full color production the way Mark's done them, and with such great musicians. No slight to the people I played with before. I mean, right. I've played with some great musicians, but there's something about Mark kind of manning the ship, it's just raised the whole thing to another level for me.
So who is who's playing on the album? I know a few people.
Yeah. So Kirkland, Middleton, and Brian Weber are the two. They're kind of the rhythm section. Brian actually plays bass and lots of guitar on the record. Okay. But the two of them are in the Lost Bayou Ramblers. That's they're kind of the anchoring that band, and Mark plays with them in a couple different bands. So, and then there's Tiff Lampson, who's she's from a band called Givers, New Orleans based, and she plays a bunch of percussion. She sings 2 different duets with me. She sings a lot of background vocals. And then there's like Sarah Quintana who sings on it, Lily Lewis, Julie Odell, Michael Cerveris sings and he plays guitar on it.
God.
And then I know it's like, and then Cassie Francelon, she's a harp player. I mean, just yeah.
I've had Cassie and Brian on with Shakespeare in the Blues.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Incredible record. Record that they made. Yeah,
that's amazing stuff.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm forgetting someone, but I hope not. Lily. Oh, and then Jana Sasala played flute on it. I think that was it. Man. Yeah, I know. Mark's it was like. I was gonna say the kitchen sink, but it's way more tasteful than that. Yeah. You didn't just throw everything at it. He very carefully curated and chose these people for each song.
Yeah, exactly. And if Mark Bingham says, "Hey, come on over. I got something I want you to be on," you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah, and with the bonus thing was I just thought, okay, it'll be really cool to play with these musicians. I'll never see them again. Right. No, I made friends. I have all these friends now down here thanks to Mark.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and I remember sitting with Sarah Quintana. First of all, now I'm all a fan of all of their music. Yeah. I didn't know any of them, and now I'm like, oh my God, they're all incredible. Yeah. So Sarah, I'm a huge fan of her songs, and we're just sitting together during the session, and she's just looking at me, and she's like, "Do you know who you have on your album?" She's like, "You have this person, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Who are you?" I was like, yeah, exactly. Who the hell am I?
God, I've been listening to it for days now, and there's some beautiful harmonies on it, some amazing duets, like On Your Side, If We Became Lovers, two of my favorite harmonies and duets. I mean, those are awesome tracks.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm very pleased with those two. Yeah.
Till you became lovers. If we became lovers, that first time would be explosive all night. Within a few hours, we'd have our first fight. We'd say things so cruel.
And I love how the album just, it's kind of circular to me, because you start off with, some really almost like psychedelic kind of sound. And it just goes into something a little more sunnier sounds, goes into a little heavier stuff. And right in the middle, you got that I Love You, Duh, which is completely different from anything else on the album.
Yep.
And then you bring it all back around with Rock My Mind and with
Johnny's New Hair.
Johnny's New Hair, yes.
Johnny hopped that turnstile without warning. Now the lights are bright like it was still morning. Went to the barber on an army dare. Hey, Johnny Hood, Johnny, hey. Barber was drunk, but you didn't much care. Write it down, boy, write it down, boy. Maybe that's because you were drunk as well. Hey, Johnny Hood, Johnny, hey. Now you don't look too much like yourself. Write it down, boy, put it in that book. Johnny, you got that hairstyle.
It just kind of ends as heavy as it begins, but there's so much in the middle. It feels like it just goes in a perfect circle. I love albums that do that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't really make that connection myself. I'm happy to hear you say that. That's interesting. Makes me feel like my intuitive reasoning for picking this order made some kind of sense.
Yeah,
That's good.
Sequencing worked, man. But what I liked about a lot of the songs in the beginning is they sound like light and summery. It's amazing. Now lyrically, they're maybe not as light. But musically, they're like If We Became Lovers.
Yeah.
Sounds so bright and happy, but lyrically, man, that's some not happy stuff, kind of.
It's a very dark song.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. I think that's why Mark liked that one so much too. Is like, let's just make this really feel like, I don't even know what, the Carpenters or some kind of 70s
Yes.
AM gold kind of. And I love that stuff. I just love it. But then the lyrics are very much incredibly cynical and heartbreaking in a way.
What song changed the most from the time you sent it to Mark to the finished album? Is there one that transformed a lot?
Yeah, let me think about that. I mean, really, all of them did, but probably I Love You, Duh, hearing it. First of all, I always did conceive of it as a female lead singing that song. It's like a bratty girl rap that just came to me and kind of bugged me for literally a couple of years. And it was like, are you going to record me or not? And it was like, I guess I got to record you. and I demoed it myself and I felt so awkward doing it. I was like, I can't pull this off. So the idea, when I finally got to the studio and heard Sarah do this rap that I wrote, it just blew my mind. I was on the floor, crying, laughing. It was so much fun. And then Mark just changed my little dinky Casio beat to just crazy Phil Spector wall of sound nonsense. It was great.
It was. I wasn't expecting that.
You must be some kind of idiot not to notice me staring. Do you see what I'm wearing? Now you just act like you don't care when I walk by. I had you pegged for a smart guy, but you don't seem to want no part of my heart. Why? I got this feeling if we were to get together, you'd hit my pleasure center better than anyone ever. Rip my sweater, I'll let you do whatever. Bring another girl if it won't upset her. I could get her in the mood, make this a double header.
That right in the middle of that. Where did this come from?
Right.
It's startling, but in a really cool way.
Good. I'm glad.
is there a song that really didn't change much from the time you started recording to the time the album came out?
I mean, the only one I'd say, like, Rock My Mind, Mark definitely added some like really tasty choices to it. But I think like that one, I actually had a studio demo of that I sent to him, and
Okay.
I feel like it was the bones of that were pretty well worked out. So I don't think that changed a whole lot. Again, he made some really nice subtle tweaks that really helped. But yeah.
How long did it take to record the whole thing?
It was honestly like lightning quick. I mean, I went down there in May. We did 4 songs in just a few days. And then I was like, I want to do a ton more. Let me come in. I came down and did like 11 more songs in 10 days.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
then I think just a month later, it was like mastered. I mean, you know, by September or October or something, it was done. So yeah, we did it really quick.
Were all the songs written out before you got to the studio, or were there any that kind of were created in the studio?
None were created in the studio, but Mark has a great way of working. We're actually doing this album, though. I'm down here recording with him again. That's where
Awesome.
he found me. And this album's a pretty different process. But for the Life Our Own Way project, he had this really cool method, which like he didn't teach anyone the songs. He had people listen to them. But he's like, when we get in the room, that's when we figure out the song. And I would just sit there with my guitar and play it for people. And everyone made up their parts, like, and they would try a few different things.
Wow.
And then like, before we know it, we're just tracking. And then, you know, 3 takes in, we've got the take. And like, he believes, and this is the way I work too. It's like, it's very intuitive and it's very much in the room, in the moment, in the air between the people in the room. And that's how the best stuff. So that's definitely the band process. And this time he wants to be a little bit more like, we're kind of making more like of a back rack album where he wants to really make lots of nice little parts for everything, which I'm very cool with.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, yeah.
You know, it makes it a little easier when you've got some pretty amazing professionals working with you, like guys from the Lost Bayou Ramblers. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't get much better than that. Those guys are incredible.
Incredible. I know. Pinch me.
So one of the things in reading about you and trying to do as much research as I can is I found the books that you've written. Now we discussed one, but you've got another book that I've got to find. I've got to get this because this sounds so fascinating. Qualification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is amazing. So you kind of became I don't even, I guess I want to say kind of, I guess maybe it was an addiction to 12-step programs.
Yes. It's a graphic memoir about, you know, I was raised in a 12-step household, which was a bit culty, honestly.
Okay.
And it was sort of, you know, it was like shoved down my throat since my early teens. And it wasn't until I turned 30 that I finally kind of felt like my life was a bit of a mess and maybe I did need a program or two. And my mom never let up since I was a teen, just kept pushing it on me. Yeah. And then, the story is really about getting sucked in and going to these programs myself and then finding myself 6 years in completely addicted to the program itself and like piling more and more meetings on, more and more programs, thinking like pathologizing every part of my, every behavior was suddenly an addiction. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's like that, but it was sort of like the exact wrong thing for my personal dysfunctions. It was like all it did was make me crazier in a way.
So you're going to like 12-step programs for issues you didn't even have.
By the end, yeah, that's when this really honestly drove my wife Rebecca absolutely crazy, which is a lot of what the book is kind of about. Us and like, will we stay together? And we did, we worked it out. But yeah, by the end I was going to AA, a meeting every day, and I didn't even drink. So that was where she was like, drew the line, like, wow. You have lost your mind. Why are you going to Alcoholics Anonymous? You don't even drink.
That's amazing. That's wow. There's an adaptation of this coming out possibly in the future.
Yeah, we're pitching this as a TV series now, me and a co-writer friend of mine in a production company. So we actually have some pitch meetings like when I get back to New York, which is kind of cool.
Oh, man, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I would say we're far from having a show. It's really just like conversations now, but it is exciting. It's definitely like where I want to point my my career. I want to do like more TV and music, basically.
That's fantastic. I mean, this honestly, this whole the premise of the book sounds just fascinating to me. It's incredible. I'm gonna have to get the book because it's just wild. I cannot. I'm excited. It's the first.
You might dig it.
I can't wait because I can't think of a book that I'm just dying to read, and it's been a while, I should say. And the premise is just fascinating to me. So
No, I'm honored. Thanks, man.
You are currently headed to New Orleans to record stuff for another album, and as of this recording, your album we're talking about hasn't even come out yet.
I know. That's crazy.
That's amazing.
No, I've actually just left the Arnaudville area where I was recording. So we actually just finished recording today.
Okay.
And so now I'm just going to hang out with friends in New Orleans. My new friends, my new New Orleans friends, now that I'm a musician down here.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so we just did basic tracks. The thing with Mark this time was I said, I'd like to come down and do like a really laser targeted, like 4 days, try and knock as many tracks as we can. We got 13 songs done in 4 days, just the basic tracks. And I told him, like, take the year and just like, if dream up parts. And if you think of, he's like, I have a harp part for this. I have some strings for that. Just do it. And like, I'll come down in the fall or something and record vocals. I don't know. That's the way we're thinking now. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You just never stop working. You always got something going on.
I gotta stay busy. Otherwise I go nuts.
So are you planning on supporting the album that's coming out with any live shows, or are you just going to move on to the next project?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not so much of a live musician. I've been making like animated music videos for a couple of the songs. So like Life Our Own Way, the title track, I just finished a video for that that's going to premiere on our website soon.
Something happens between the hour of midnight and dawn. A deeper frequency no one but me and she can be on. I know you tried to raise us right, but you raised us wrong. Let's hit the street, time to get with the beat of the song. Come on, living life our own way. Living life free. Living life our own way.
And I drew every frame of the video by hand, so it's got like about 1,000 different drawings in it.
Wow.
And that's been taking up my time for the last few months, and that's done. And then I hired an illustrator and animator to do On Your Side, actually, the song you mentioned. We have a really nice video for that's going to be done soon. So I'm kind of, I like kind of marrying the two if I can, like these animations and the music. And I haven't, maybe I'll do like a small show in my neighborhood or something just for some neighbors, but I don't know if I'm going to play out too much right now.
Besides the next album, is there more artwork or books in the future?
Yeah, I have one book. So after qualification came back, I actually have done a series of these like small little books that I serialized on Instagram first. Oh. So I would draw, like, on Instagram you can have up to 10 different slides for a post. And so I'd make these like 10-page chapters, a post at a time on Instagram, and I wound up making 3 like kind of little novella sized books, and 2 of them I self-published, and the third one I haven't self-published yet. So I'll probably try and print that up in the new year or this year. I don't have any other comics planned for right now. I'm really, really kind of want to keep doing the TV thing. Yeah. I have my own show I'm pitching, and then the musician I mentioned, Tiff from Givers, who sings the duets with me, we've really become friends, and I'm actually trying to develop a TV series with her too. She has a great idea, so we're like an animated series for her. So yeah, there's like a bunch of that kind of stuff I want to do.
Oh, that is awesome. So how can people pick up Life Our Own Way and follow you and find out what you're up to, find out when the next album's coming out, find out, maybe follow your art as well?
Yeah. I mean, the best place to follow me is just on Instagram. It's my name, David Heatley, Heatley, one word. And then, Life Our Own Way is going to be streaming everywhere February 11th this year. So I'm not doing any physical copies, but it'll be on every platform you can imagine. And like I said, the music videos will be up on YouTube and probably also on my Instagram page. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, I've enjoyed listening to it. It's been a blast talking with you. I really do appreciate you taking the time from your drive and chatting with me about your music and your art. It's really been a lot of fun.
Oh, for me too, Mark. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
I know that I'm rusty, but I hope you can trust me, 'cause I'm on your side. If you would let me, I would love you so gently, 'cause I'm on your side. I know your heart has been shuttered for a while, and rushing into loving is no longer your style. But if we take the step together, you would realize forever I'll be on your side.
As soon as I see you, it's not hard to believe you that you're on my side.